The fine art of talking to different people. Very important and practical tips. A good conversation partner is a forgiving partner. Some of us are so self-absorbed that we expect to follow a one-way routine when talking to others. We want good back-and-forth sentences, and we consider it necessary to listen to them. But to be a good listener, there must be something to listen to. We must learn to engage people in conversations that bring them out of their shell and allow them to talk about themselves and their world. Sometimes people don't want to talk, but even the quietest of people may want to communicate. Most people like to be heard. Conversing with a variety of characters can be a bit like speaking a foreign language. Assuming you're not French, you might buy a cup of coffee from a shop in Paris using another international language. But if you try their language, you might win the heart of a Parisian. To get close to others, sometimes it is necessary to speak to them in their own language. This doesn't mean you have to give up on the way you speak. However, when you want to communicate with another person by changing the circumstances, you do not become small. You can earn respect and be true to yourself while performing an act of generosity. Good communicators usually keep a couple of useful tools in their toolbox, such as a set of reliable methods and some common sense. The art of speaking is developed mostly through practice, and there is no sufficient guide like experience. As with most things, it involves practice, and practice. The general guidelines presented here are derived from theory, experience, and some survey data. You may be trying to use certain personality traits. So, it is assumed that you know your strengths and weaknesses. In addition, you are already familiar with your interests. Now we want to learn to focus our conversations when talking to different types of characters. Number 1. Conversation with analytical personality types. Rational people. To get a personality analyst's attention, you probably won't be able to use the usual casual talk. They are too busy with their imaginations to worry about trivial things. A good place may not impress them. You may have more success if what you propose requires a little more scrutiny. You can start by asking, "I wonder why," for example, "I wonder why they chose this topic this year." Or "I wonder why they don't have different flavored salads." And questions like this. Analysts often think in terms of why, how, and what. While there are no guaranteed topics, it only increases the likelihood that an analytical character will be stuck with an endless question that requires a bit of fact-checking. Ask them to talk about scientific issues and their improvement from their point of view. I often wonder how we can spend less money and train all the employees. I never know how I can fit all the things I need to do into my schedule. Give them a little puzzle to work on. Then calmly and politely challenge them. While analytical personality types don't like having their ideas challenged by others, they often take pride in defending their opinions. By stating that you don't intend to be confrontational, it not only removes the feeling that your criticism is a personal affront, but also lets them know that you're looking for more information. Whenever you're looking for an explanation, you can turn to analytical people, who probably enjoy explaining things. Typically, people with introverted and thoughtful personality traits are busier making ideas in their heads than giving you their full attention. Unless they see you as an expert, or at least on their level. They may not always listen. You probably don't want to change him either. But your silence can be a very powerful conversational skill when done at the right time and in the right measure. So be patient. Understanding the facts or solving the problem is more important for analysts than making sure they have said everything. Your best chance of getting to this point, if you have any luck at all, is to provide the analyst with some new and interesting information, especially if it's a challenging idea. Avoid making claims you can't rely on. Presenting the theory to an analytical figure puts you where you want to be in their unconscious. Just make sure your theories have a solid foundation, so you don't lose respect and possibly erase any engagement you've gained. Avoid getting warm and fuzzy as a rationale. While analytical personalities are capable of empathizing and caring for people, they rarely see the world through this filter. Sometimes, even if you talk to them gently, they may wonder how serious you are about the issues you raise. Number 2. Conversation with political personality types. Paying attention to human conditions is exactly what attracts the attention of politicians. If you talk about people in a certain situation, you will confuse them. My God! I can't believe the restaurant has people freezing outside while waiting for a table. Have you read the refugee news? Isn't that terrible? Isn't Betty funny? He has become much friendlier lately. Many political figures are lovers of the cause, both nationally and internationally. Discovering the cause of these reasons and the beliefs or behaviors surrounding them encourages these people to share. Presenting big ideas about social issues with so many politicians make things tense. But if you have your reasons, you can show that you are unintentional and keep your conversation flowing. Highlighting a problem and discussing a solution may also be effective. He said, "I felt they humiliated Janet in today's meeting. I wonder what we can do to help him." Or, "I have heard that 1 in 5 people go to bed hungry." But what can a common person do? Politicians are not only in favor of progress in societies and people, but on a smaller level they are often in favor of personal progress. Some may be interested in spiritual evolution. Discussions related to human development often deceive politicians and may bring them deeper into the conversation. I attended yoga classes a few months ago. Yoga is a different world. Have you ever tried it? I tried to study at least 1 hour a day. But I am very busy, I really miss reading. Do you find time to study? I will try this new method to curb bad habits. If you're expecting a warm response, avoid saying anything that makes you sound like a hollow drum. For example, when you say, "If we do this, human resources will be disrupted and problematic," an analytical person may just shrug his shoulders. But this statement may worry a politician and probably silence. He does. Statistics on human suffering are often ignored. When talking to a politician, learn to go with the flow and avoid being offensive or defensive. Introverted personality types usually spend more time with those around them. Instead of listening, they spend anticipation for what they want to say. However, the feeling of not being relevant for politicians may be somewhat reduced. For them, everything should be harmonious and understandable. Politicians try to devote equal or more time to talking about righteous feelings in a conversation. They honestly listen to what others have to say. However, it may always conflict, at least to some extent, with their busy imaginations. They may always look like they're on the same track as you, but that doesn't mean they're not processing your data. They may do it, but in their own unique way. So don't give up. Number 3. Conversation with careful personality types. Short talks are more about paying attention and commenting on daily tasks. Guardian types with alert and careful personality traits all live in the present and tangible world. Usually, short conversations with them are good. Ask about their job, their hobbies, or their family and friends, and let the conversation flow. Even the guarded but introverted types have a lot of connections and valuable ideas for society whether they are active in the field or not. Their work, family and communities are likely to be hot topics. Guardian people like to talk about how to live or how to spend it. They enjoy practical topics and current affairs. They are loyal to people and valuable issues in their lives. These people can even be situational, so talking about houses, cars, vacations, and kids might be a spark to start a conversation, depending on the type of guard person they are. Those guardians who prefer the thinking personality trait may be interested in things that involve procedures and the good implementation of a system. A horror story about some logistical nightmare is good fodder for workplace conversation. Those who trust emotional people more may highlight others in their lives. They are warm and companionable listeners and like to share stories about more personal topics. Guardians rarely seek praise, but are thrilled when others recognize their efforts. Using some honest and good compliments in conversation will make most people happy. These hard-working personalities understand it more than others, and maybe even deserve it. Guardians aren't too interested in theories unless they have a direct bearing on some practical outcome, so pay attention to that. Imagination also has its limits in conversations with them. They may enjoy watching a movie about superheroes and their missions to save humanity. A sense of duty may appeal to them. But talk to them about this. Don't argue if Iron Man can take down Captain America. That seems pretty silly for a Guardian character. Avant-garde ideas and fashion-related issues have a certain lifespan. Something about this might be of interest to these people, but just for a minute. There are so many life issues to talk about. Sports, politics, fashion, or anything real and ordinary in their life may be a good substitute when the conversation is long. Guardians' loyalties run deep, so be careful with someone or something they are extremely sensitive to. Some people are not sensitive to negative thinking about their family or career when chatting. Guardians may be offended by this. They are often closely related to this part of their lives and oppose the display of such opinions. Number 4. Conversation with the seeker personality types. Typically, while others are talking, searchers are doing something, thinking about doing something, or thinking about how to do something. That doesn't mean they can't wait long enough to have a good conversation. Many of them like to talk about what they are doing. One way to talk to questing characters is to ask about their latest project or mission. These questions are not what these people are interested in, and they prefer to pay attention to the activities involved. Exactly how you did it. No matter what they do for a living, all kinds of searching characters around us. Skilled performers are artists and craftsmen. There are usually many things to spark a conversation with them. When you sing, how do you hit that perfect note? Have you been rebuilding engines for a long time? When was the first time you did this? They change the CPR steps a lot. This is confusing me right now. As a first responder, you need to know the best way to revive someone. Inquisitive characters often like to be the heroes of their own stories, but it's not necessarily related to selfishness or narcissism, although they can sometimes be. They derive much of their self-esteem from being useful, and accordingly, they like to have their skills recognized. Mar is more or less their brand. Therefore, they like it when their specialized work is done by themselves or by someone else. This gives credit to the searchers. By getting them to tell a story about how they save or use their talents to make a difference, they will usually engage. Think of searchers as someone who has a button that says, "I'm good in crises." Ask me how searchers often like things that are trendy, and talking to them about the latest things they're interested in keeps the conversation going. Talking about a new and superior technique for doing anything is great. Some searchers with emotional personality traits consider themselves to be consultants, or sometimes coaches. Asking about the advice of people in this subgroup may also cause burning and interruption of the conversation. Inquisitive personalities are similar cousins to Guardians in that both shy away from theory and are more interested in specific subjects that can be physically manipulated. If the conversation leans too much into what's going on in these people's minds, you might lose them. However, if you put that theory into practice, you will get them back. Be careful not to judge them for taking risks or avoiding conventional methods. These types of characters are so useful that sometimes they feel good by circumventing the rules and sometimes they find it necessary to take risks to get things done. So, if you criticize their work, you lose them. While you don't have to approve of their unusual ways, do not be judgmental when talking to them. Unless your job is to keep them on track. You can even win them over by praising their ingenuity and boldness without praising their methods. And at the end of the conclusion, people are usually not flexible enough to be as simple as a cookie. People are so complex that it is very difficult to establish a one-dimensional and easy communication with them. It is not easy to identify people who are analysts, politicians, guards, or searchers. These are just some tips that may help you if you feel that the conversation is difficult. No matter what technique you use, the ultimate goal is to exchange thoughts, feelings, facts, or ideas in an authentic and spontaneous way. These are about connecting with another person. Well, dear friends, I hope this content was useful for you, and if you have any questions or suggestions, be sure to share them with us in the comments section. Thank you for your company wherever you are. Be happy, rich, and healthy. See you in the next video.